I was a new guy in the SEAL platoon, which means keep your mouth shut, keep your ears open. I did that to the best of my ability. Wasn't always the best at it, but I did my best. And when you're in your first SEAL platoon, you get a lot of your DNA in your first SEAL platoon. You're kind of watching what's going on. You're watching what the old guys, and by the way, the old guys are like 22 or 23 maybe. For me, I was 19, so an old guy is 24, 25 maybe. Your platoon chief might be 33, something like that. But you're watching them, how they're acting, what they're saying, what they're doing, and you're modeling your behavior off them. And when I was in my first platoon, we had the corpsman of our platoon. You know what a corpsman is, Echo Charles? It's like a medic. Yeah, it's a medic. So the medic was a guy. He was one of the old guys, and he was a Southern man from North Carolina. They call it North Kakalaki. You ever heard that before?
Yes, sir.
North Kakalaki. All right. So his name was Harold Underdown, and in the SEAL teams, you're going to get a nickname at some point, and I believe Harold Underdown, because your last name is Underdown. Now, did you ever hear of a TV show called Underdog?
Yes, of course.
So that got, I believe, morphed into Underdog, and then eventually that just became Dog or Doggy. So he was an old guy at the time. He was probably, I don't know, like maybe around 30, maybe. He had old school mentality. And it became very clear what his attitude was like when someone needed medical attention. Because as our platoon corpsman, if someone got sick or someone got dinged up or someone needed some kind of medical help, Dog would take a look at the individual, look at the sprained ankle or the cut hand or the sick belly or whatever. And he'd do an assessment. And then he'd say, "Dog, he ain't got nothing for you." And that was his way of saying, if you got a problem, suck it up. And if you got a problem, you got to get that problem solved yourself. Dog, he ain't got nothing for you. I'm not over here to fix you. I'm not over here to baby you. You got to take care of yourself. You got to make sure you're good to go. You got to solve your own problems. And that was a great attitude for me to see as a young guy, and I definitely carried that attitude throughout my time in the teams. As did Doggy, who went on to have a incredible career with deployments all over the place, all over the world. Spent time at the Navy's JSOC Special Mission Unit. He deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan, and he was the Master Chief of the command of SEAL Team 4. He carried on to do other things in the SEAL teams, and it's an honor to have him with us here tonight to share some of his experiences and lessons learned. Here he is. Doggy, thanks for joining us, man.
Wow. What a pleasure being here with you, Jocko. And, let's have some fun, right? As we talk through this, it was a heck of a ride, right?
Yeah.
I ended up with 30 years in 1 month. After they took they do the arithmetic of how many active duty days you had, and I had 8 years of National Guard, right, when I came in. So I was 25, right? Mm-hmm. I was one of the older guys at that first platoon. But they took the 8 years National Guard, and they couldn't calculate that before I retired officially. Mm-hmm. And I'd call the lady and I go, "Hey, can you tell me kind of a ballpark where that would be?" And she goes, "No, Master Chief." She said, "We'll do the calculation at your retirement date," right? So once the retirement papers got put in, it came back. I had 28 years, 11 days active duty Navy at the time. At the time, they wanted me to leave the East Coast and go to the West Coast, right, like the Group 1 Master Chief. And I just told the Force Master Chief at the time I can't do that because I'm going to lose about $300,000 of equity in my house. And it's just not worth it at this time and point, so I'm going to bow. I'm going to bow out, right? Because at the E9 level, we only have so many Master Chief billets, and that's the thing to do, right? You need to move aside and let these other E8s come up to, promote the Master Chief. But the lady called me back, and I remember I was sitting in my desk on a Friday. She goes, "Master Chief," she said, "I got good news." And I go, "What's that?" And she goes, "Your final calculation for retirement is 30 years and 1 month.
Jack.
And I went, "Roger that." That was great, right? Because that's a full career, right? So
indeed,
it was awesome. So
let's get to how it started. So you were born down, like I said, down in North Kakalaki. And what was growing up like? What'd your mom and dad do?
Mom and dad were, they were great supporters of my brother and I, Mike. And basically we lived in a little town there called, Mount Holly, right beside Belmont, which is about 30 miles or, 30 minutes south of Charlotte, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up in a little small neighborhood, running around. And we had this road that cut up through the neighborhood called Hickory Grove Road. And on Hickory Grove Road is where I met all my buddies, mm-hmm. right? We would play all kinds of crazy stuff out in the woods, and we would play basketball, football, tackle football back then in the backyard, right? Especially when it was muddy. We had a lot of fun with that. But growing up, my mom and dad were awesome. My mom worked in a mill, like a cotton mill, mm-hmm. for eons. And my dad was Dad had an 8th grade education, but he could do anything. Mm-hmm. Mechanic, carpenter, plumbing, you name it, he could do it. But he worked for a utilities plant, like a water utilities yep. plant down in McCaddenville, a little town south of us. But it was just work. And, I think they paid $15,000 for the house that me and Mike grew up in, 1 bedroom, right? So we had a lot of wrestling going on, but yeah, very modest, right? Very modest. Both parents worked, and then supported Mike and I as we came up through school and got into sports and played Little League baseball. We had lots of friends that would come over to the house, would have barbecues in the back, and it was very simple life, but very satisfying, right? As far as growing up and then they made us go to church, right? Mm-hmm. Back when we were young. But at a certain point in life, my mom said, "Hey, you don't have to get up Sunday morning and go to church anymore." So basically, she just turned the tables on us, right, and said, "I'm not making you go to church, so you make up your mind." And we did, and I've been going to church ever since, right? Because hey, if it's a part of your life, mm-hmm. you're a believer, you jock up and show up, right? Mm-hmm. So I'd jock up on Sundays and go to church. And but mom and dad, they worked their whole adult lives, right? My dad passed about 2 years ago, and my mom's still with us, and she still lives in that little small house there off Hickory Grove Road. Good thing is my brother Mike lives probably about 4 miles away, so Mike's always checking on her. And Mike just retired. He was with Freightliner, built trucks.
Yeah, I know.
So he had a great career with them, about 42 years. He just retired, and he's enjoying it, right? He's enjoying his transition, right? But yeah, for North Carolina, I have great memories of growing up, going to high school, playing football. I wrestled for 1 year, mm-hmm. and understand the wrestling mentality, right? It's it's a long 2 minutes, right? Or 2 or 3, right?
3, yeah.
3,
yeah.
It's just long, right?
Yeah.
It seems like hours when you're going toe-to-toe with somebody your own weight class. But it was awesome. We had a great, being kids coming up, it's not like it is today. We'd basically leave the house and we wouldn't come home mm-hmm. until dark. And, of course, Mom always had food on the table and then just repeat, right?